Welcome to today's author. As the title would infer, we speak with folks who really write books and they tell stories and they talk with us about why they got into writing books and the craft itself. We're fortunate today to be speaking with Nicole Asselin. She is the author of Murder at First Pitch. Now, I'm looking forward to finding out the premise of this particular book. Welcome to the program, Nicole.
Hi, thank you for having me. This is so fun.
So I'm going to take a wild guess that you're like a baseball fan.
I mean, I don't know. Maybe just I am holding a bat too. I don't know why. It just was on my couch, so I was like, I'm going to hold it. But yeah, you can tell I'm a little bit of a Red Sox fan here, and you can't see it, but I got all my bobbleheads up here. So yeah, big baseball fan, but a big mystery fan too. So I was like, where's all the baseball mysteries? And so that Murder at First Pitch.
So for folks who don't know who you are, tell us a little bit about yourself.
All right. I live in Abington, so I am a South Shore probably I've lived here the past 7 years, I think, which is a long time. I'm a Navy brat, so 7 years is a long time in one place. And I love it. It's close enough to Boston that I can get to Boston, but it's far enough away that I'm not living in the city, which could be a lot. And I did my undergraduate work. I graduated in 2004 from Curry College in Milton, and all of my best friends were from the South Shore, Pembroke, Quincy, Marshfield. So I knew I wanted to move back here after college. And so I did. And I work as a technical writer by day and mystery author / TV watcher at night.
Okay. Are you yourself a consummate reader? So what type of books do you gravitate towards?
Oh, my mom would be so upset if I tell people this, but I'm going to anyway. I probably have like 600 books in my to be read pile, and they're starting to overflow onto floors. I'm running out of shelf space, but I love books. I love writers. I do read a lot of mysteries, I'm right now, my current fascination is with historical mysteries set in like Victorian times, just that whole it kind of is, it's interesting to me how detecting is different when you don't have a computer, when you don't have a phone, when you can't just call somebody and be like, hey, where were you that night? I also have been really into fantasy lately. I like the world building. Again, I think there's mystery involved in the fantasies too, because there's always a war, there's always a fight, king is always dead. So lately it's been kind of, and I also think both of those are escapes from our crazy pandemic world. So it's nice and I do read a lot. I probably have 4 books going at a time, which sometimes cuts into writing time, but I love supporting other authors because they'll support you. And there's just so many good stories out there that everybody should read.
When did you come up with the idea for Murder at First Pitch?
Well, other than, the Red Sox, a couple of years ago, my dad lives down in Maryland, and we went to a mystery readers conference called Malice Domestic. And we had gotten there really early one day, and we were just kind of shooting the breeze with people and having breakfast. And I met a woman who actually was from Boston, Shelley Dixon Carr. And she said, well, you're here at this conference. If you wrote a mystery, what would you write about? And I was like, well, that's a great question. I did major in English and creative writing, but I had been working as a tech writer for 10 years. So it's, I was like, I don't know. And then the more I sat and thought with it, I said, there's a lot of cozy mysteries about crafters, about knitters, about bookstore owners, librarians. There's not any that I knew of about people like me, big baseball fans, big sports fans in general, solving. A locker room is rife with murder opportunities. A baseball park has ample lot of opportunities to kill somebody. Don't check my Google history. So I knew I wanted to write something that I hadn't seen, but that I would read. And at first I thought I was going to try to do it out of a Fenway Park Red Sox theme. But the more I kind of noodled that, I said, I don't know if the Red Sox would love it if I murdered somebody at Fenway Park or in their environs. So I did what any good mystery writer does, and I made up a baseball team. I did set it in Abington, real town, real people. because that just seemed easier than trying to make up another name. But there is no baseball team in Abington, which I'm sure you all know. And I had to explain to a child in Hingham who's like, I'll come see the ballpark. And I'm like, don't, because it's not there. But so far, everybody in Abington has been cool about it. There's been no backlash that the town name is, involved. And and so it was kind of fun to create my own baseball team and kind of pretend that I was running a team and how I would run it and how I would have events. Also murder, obviously, hence the title.
Yeah, the title kind of gives you an idea as to what's the premise of the book is about, but I'm sure that there's more depth to it than that. And you gotta kind of build a backstory before you move forward with the reader.
Right. And the main character, Madeline, she's loosely based on me, and she, has this big corporate job in Boston, loses that job, but her family owns a baseball team that they've owned since the 80s, her grandfather. She always has good memories. So when she loses her job, she runs home, stumbles on a dead body, and kind of it's her journey through dealing with this big issue, but also finding her place in the family and the ballpark itself.
What was the creative process like? Because, that's my favorite question to ask an author, someone who writes, because I think it's different for everybody. What was your process like?
It's definitely different for everybody. The first draft of this book was done in like 6 months. Like I wrote every day because I knew what I wanted. I knew I knew who the killer was. I knew who was going to be the victim. I knew that. So 6 months and I banged it out. It kind of languished in the querying agenting process. So about a year after I finished, I rewrote it and I changed perspectives and I changed point of view. And then I got my publisher through that, where I got my publisher through Twitter, a Twitter pitch event that they do probably twice or 3 times a year. And my editor happens to be a big Red Sox fan. So I think I kind of lucked out in that respect. But I worked full time. So I didn't write every day as much as I wanted to. And I'm finding that problem now too with being home. There's so many other distractions. It was so much nicer when we could go to Starbucks on a Saturday. I find I write better at locations away from my house because my TV is not there. I can't necessarily get on Wi-Fi. It's a little bit harder to write. But with this book, it came out pretty quickly because I knew what I wanted to do. And I knew the premise. Book 2 is taking a little bit longer. And I think most people say that too. Second books are always harder than first because you get everything out that you want in the first book and hope for the best.
Did you have to do a considerable amount of research in order to put this book together? Because you want to make sure that even though there's fiction to it, you want it to be factual too.
Yeah, I did a book club and they asked me the same question and I was like, not really. I just kind of used a lot of my own knowledge of going to it. My dad was stationed in Mechanicsburg, Pennsylvania for almost 9 years. And we would go to Harrisburg Senator games. So we did a lot of minor league games that way. I did read one book called, I have it right here, it's The Only Rule Is It Has to Work, which is about 2 dudes who are like in their late 20s who were like, we're going to buy a baseball team in California that's not semi-pro, it was independent for sure. And so I read this first, and then that's how I kind of learned about all the little challenges that a lot of these independent leagues have, where the guys live in, motel efficiencies. They offer you a free hot dog if you bring a foul ball back because they're running low on balls, like that kind of stuff. And I think that kind of really helped inform that research part of it. Also, I follow a lot of minor league teams on Twitter. And so when I wrote this book in 2016, baseball was happening. So there were a lot of events that I found through them, like Star Wars nights and 80s nights and 90s nights and stuff like that, Friends nights, all that good stuff. So it was a lot of real life experience from people online.
So I have to ask you, someone who's a fellow reader, somebody who's a writer, and I'm sure you've read your share of books where you get to a certain point in a book, either a book is going to hook you and drag you in. You're like, I can't wait.
Yeah.
Or you're like, it's plodding along. You're like, oh, it's not doing. What did you do to make sure that your book was compelling and was able to bring your readers through right to the end?
I think mysteries have a good lock on that, because especially cozy mysteries, one of the general rules of thumb is you're going to kill somebody in the first 2 or 3 chapters. And I think personally, if someone dies and there's a kickoff to a murder mystery element, I'm going to want to keep reading, because now I want to know who killed them. Like, it's that gets you right away. If it's too much description in the first bunch of chapters, you kind of get bored and plotting. So I try to make an action happen early in the book, and then early and often action wise.
Okay. You kind of mentioned it earlier on in our conversation about trying to write, and some of the pitfalls of writing, whether you're at home or you get distractions. Was it that simple? Do you have any other roadblocks you might have faced? And when I say roadblocks, sometimes personal things get in your way, maybe work, or you know what, sometimes you get to a certain point and you're like, oh, I'm not feeling it. It's not coming out. It's not flowing. You have anything like that happen to you?
Oh, sure. Not so much in the first book, this one, Murder at First Pitch. In the second book, that's coming out later this year, early next year, there was a little bit of writer's block happening around probably about 50,000 words. I hit 50,000 words and I'm like, I don't know where I'm going. I'm currently drafting book 3, and I actually tried a different tact this time. I'm actually plotting it out, because I'm a pantser, as they call them. I write by the seat of my pants. I know big moments. I know who the killer is. I know who the victim is, but I don't know how they're going to get there. But for book 3, I'm trying to see if maybe a different thing would work to push me through, because once it hits 50, you got to go 20,000 more, and you can do it, but it's hard. Writer's block, I know some people say writer's block isn't a thing. I think it is. I think some people, like you said, life happens, and especially now where we're in a pandemic, and I don't have kids, but some writers have kids and they're having to teach their kids. That takes out your writing time, and it's hard. I think all writers, I'm not one of those writers who's like, you have to write every day, because I know that's not feasible for everybody. I think as long as you can write when you can, I think that pushes you through the roadblocks a little bit. Like I said, it's hard in a pandemic because I can't go to Starbucks. I can't go to Panera. I can't just block out an hour of time and bang out a bunch of words. And also I can't sit outside today because it's like 1,000 degrees. So it's been a little rougher for me this go around. But for book 1, like I said, it came out in 6 months. I knew everything I wanted to do. I knew the big beats, and that kind of stuff. So I think it depends on the book itself. Sometimes the book writes itself. Sometimes you really have to labor for it. And I think book sequels and cozy mysteries, where you have multiple series of books, I think that's probably where it gets harder, because you have to start kind of changing your viewpoint a little bit as well.
You kind of mentioned that you're a technical writer by trade, but did you, prior to embarking on this great feat to write a book, did you chat with any authors and get any insight from them? And did any of that work? Or maybe you had an English comp teacher that you still remember who helped you in college that kind of guided you through?
Yeah, I've always been in English. I was an English major. I started out with sports psychology, then child psychology, and then I'm like, what am I doing? Just go to English. And back in college in the early 2000s, it was very angsty poetry that I wrote. So there wasn't a lot of creative prose happening. After I attended Malice Domestic in 2015-16 with my dad, I actually joined Sisters in Crime New England, Sisters in Crime National, Mystery Writers of America New England. And through that, I met so many authors that, there's a group called the Guppies, where it's all the great unpublished. And you can just go onto the message board and say, I'm trying to kill somebody with a pen. How would you do it? And everybody is like, that's a great idea. Let's play this out and see what happens. Or I'm trying to submit to this organization. What are your thoughts and feelings with them? And I think the mystery community, I don't know about any of the other communities, but I know the mystery community itself is very supportive. And I mean, even people that aren't baseball fans, they've read my book because they're like, I support you. It's a great mystery. You know, read it, keep going. We want to do this. So I've been a member of both those organizations for the past 4 years. And I can't say enough. If you're a writer, find your organization. If you're a romance writer, fiction, nonfiction, just having that support group is invaluable, I think. And I think that's what pushed me to actually keep going, to try to find a publisher and an agent.
Talk to me about, we've sat here, we've talked about the nuts and the bolts and the process, the writing process, but that's not all there is. And then you get your first draft, because then there's other attributes, whether it's artwork, whether it's the cover art, the look of it. What was that like? Was that something that you had a hand in, or was that your publisher?
It was awesome, because it's amazing to have a book and then somebody says, here's a cover. My publisher is Panda Moon Publishing out of Austin, Texas, and they are a full service publisher. So they did the edit. I did have it edited before it went to them, but then I had an editor, actually, Jessica Rhino, who lives in West Bridgewater, which we still haven't met each other yet, and we're 15 minutes away from each other. But shout out, her book comes out in October, The Writer's End, so find that. And she did a great job. And then Don Kramer is actually their art director, and he's the one who actually designed this cover. And this was the first cover. He sent this cover. It was a little dark at first, and I said, think more Hallmark, less Breaking Bad. Like, it needs to be brighter because it's a cozy. And so the first cover, I was like, done. That's perfect. I love it so much. I have it on my cell phone. I have it everywhere. I just can't say enough. So he's been really great. And again, the publisher is just so supportive of everything we do. Just last week, I was their featured author for a week. So they did a YouTube interview. They did promotions on the book, and which was great because baseball was starting. So it was perfect time. And I think that's really helpful. I'm glad I don't have to do a lot of the art stuff, because as much as I like to think I'm that creative, I'm not that creative. I like putting it in someone else's hands. And they take a lot of input from us. They have a template, and they say, what are 5 covers you like? What are 5 you hate? What colors do you want on it? And all that kind of stuff. So they've been great with that.
So you get it all together from cover to cover. What was it like to hold the first copy of your book in your hands, just like you did a few minutes ago?
I cried. I did an unboxing video and I cried with my cats. It's like, cats, I have a book. They didn't care. I sent it to all my, pictures to my family. I'm like, guys, it's like a real book. The bigger surreal project was when I went to the Abington Library and they had it on their shelves. I cried then. I think a lot of authors will tell you when they see that first book, it's pretty amazing to see your words printed out into something that books have been a part of my life since I was a kid, and to see something that now other people can have into the future, I'm going to cry talking about it now. It's just, it's amazing. And you don't do it for money because it's, whatever, but you do it because you want your story to get out there. And now that it's out there, and people on Facebook, will say, I'm a baseball fan. Thank you for writing a quick mystery about baseball. And it's just, it's amazing.
So, here we are, we're in the midst of a pandemic, but I believe that your book came out prior to that. Yes. What was it like to have a book signing and meet the public?
Oh my God. I love the public. I'm an introvert. Most writers are. We're introvert extroverts, where obviously I can talk and I love to talk to people. But if I had, my full druthers, I'm like, pandemic's not that bad. I'm sitting at home watching all my shows, which is probably why I'm not writing. But I'd love just sitting in a bookstore and having people ask me about the book. I did a signing up in New Hampshire, which is where my grandfather's family's from. And the book is dedicated to him and my grandmother. So to have them all come out and support, it's amazing. I love doing the library talks. I think my most favorite thing was doing the Abington Library talk, because they're my people. And now I still get excited when I go and they're like, Nicole, welcome back. And I'm like, oh my God, my librarians know me. Like I'm one of them. So I do love, and I love when people come up and say, you know, I enjoyed it because XYZ, whatever reason. If they just enjoyed it because the cover was pretty, that's cool too. Like I like all compliments. So I think it's harder now. I did just do a Zoom talk with the Langley Adams Library up in Groveland, which was pretty fun, but it's hard because when you get too many people on a Zoom, you can't really ask questions and nobody can really interact. And so that's rough. I like to interact with the people as much as I can. Not so much right now, obviously, but I also like Zoom because then I only have to dress from here up and put makeup on for 2 hours, which is good.
What has been the most memorable feedback that you've received from readers?
Ooh, I wish I had it written down because I had a great review. It's on Amazon from a woman I met through a Facebook group, a Cozy Mystery Facebook group. And she just said, you know, this book speaks to me as a baseball fan. You don't clobber people over the head with baseball, but it's still there. And I feel seen. Like I go to minor league games. I feel seen in this genre that I never felt seen in before. And that to me is important because like I said, there are, especially in New England, so many baseball fans that are cozy mystery readers, and they get put in these boxes that they need a place, they need an outlet too. And I think cozies are starting to go in that direction where, you know, you have beer brewers, you have home improvement mysteries, and now hopefully I started a theme with sports mysteries. We'll see.
We have a few minutes left with you, Nicole. We thank you for joining us and being a part of today's show. It sounds to me, the book sounds like it predates the first World Series. You know, we've got a glut of championships since 2004, and it sounds like it's coming from the mind of a long-suffering Bostonian. Am I wrong?
I mean, like I said, my dad was a Navy guy, so we kind of moved around, but my grandfather was from New Hampshire. They spent 50 years in Meriden. My parents were born in Meriden, Connecticut. And so they were on the straddling line of Yankees or Red Sox. And luckily we went the good side, not the evil empire. No offense to Yankees fans on here. So yeah, I was around, I was in college for the 2003 Aaron Bleeping Boone.
Oh man!
I remember we had all our windows open and everybody's cheering for the game, and then all of a sudden, dead silence on a college campus. Dead silence. I remember, and then I moved back home to Pennsylvania and had to watch the games by myself in my house until 2 a.m. But my grandfather, obviously, he luckily, knock on wood, he was alive for 2 of the World Series, and that just, you know, when you see a fan like that, who's been a fan since, you know, the 30s, 40s, you're like, all right, that's worth it for them. And now we're all spoiled, obviously, between the Red Sox and the Patriots and the Bruins and Celtics. Well, they were in 08, but this is here for the Celtics.
I think everybody understands where you're coming from.
Yeah.
As we wrap up, I want to give you an opportunity. Folks want to find out more about the book, how they can get copies, whether you are just, if you're maybe web-based, Facebook-based, have a website. What do you have for information?
I do. I have a website. It's NicoleAsselinWriter.com, and you can find all the links to all the different bookstores. You can find also my social media links. I have a Facebook group called Nicole's Starting Lineup, which you can find, and I post, you know, sneak peeks of upcoming books. I post a lot of videos telling you guys it's coming, my book, I don't know when, or book recommendations. I also I'm heavily on Twitter. I love Twitter so much. And you can get the book on Amazon. If you have a Kindle, it's $4.99. If you want a paperback, you can do that. If you want to contact me, I have hard copies here. If you do order it online and you want a signed book plate, I have little book plates I can sign and send. And yeah, I can find it anywhere. Barnes & Noble, you can buy it through them. Bookshop.org if you want to support your local indie. If you're in Sandwich, Massachusetts, it's at Titcomb's Bookshop, which is one of my favorites. If you're in Mystic, Connecticut, I don't know why you would be if you're in Whitman right now, but it's at Bank Square Books as well. So all over.
Well, now, so before we let you go, we should probably just tease it. And I think you kind of done it
Yeah,
throughout the conversation here. You've got a couple of books already in the works.
on the pipeline.
When? When?
Yeah, book 2 of the Ballpark Mystery Series, still set in Abington, is scheduled for the end of this year. And as of right now, it's titled Concession Stand Crimes. If you join my Facebook group or you sign up for my newsletter on my website, you'll be the first to see the cover. You'll be the first to know I just sent all the information for the cover back, so I'm hoping that will come up very soon. And book 3 has no title yet, but I'm moving Madeline away from Abington. She's going to travel so that we don't have a Murder, She Wrote situation where everybody dies at the ballpark. I don't want to keep killing people there. So she's going, it's a travel book, we'll put it that way.
Very nice. Well, we hope to have you back on with the release of book 2.
Yeah, I hope so too.
And continued success. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. I had a good time.
You got it. And thank you for tuning in to today's author. Again, what we try to do is folks who are here locally who want to share their crafts and tell their stories like Nicole did today. If you happen to know of someone, please reach out. info@whca.tv is the way. And until next time, have a good day.